Hi friends, welcome to the video. If you've never seen my face before, I'm Olivia, and you can consider me your fragrance fairy godmother. So Valentine's Day is coming up around the corner, and I want to ensure that no matter what scenario you find yourself in, you are going to be smelling absolutely fabulous. Sometimes when people are talking about fragrances for Valentine's Day, we can get a little bit narrow-minded and only think about hot and sexy date night. Not all of us find ourselves in that kind of scenario on Valentine's Day. So for today, I am going to be going through different scenarios that you could find yourself in chilling at home. Or maybe you're hanging out with your friends, maybe you're going on a first date, or maybe you are in a hot and steamy situation. We're covering all bases today, and I've got quite a few to talk about, so let's get into the video. Valentine's Day is the day of love, and I think one category that doesn't get enough love is if you are chilling by yourself. First off, I want to say that there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There is nothing more powerful than loving yourself. So even if you're just chilling at home, you can smell amazing. So this category is specifically going to be focused on cozy, comforting fragrances that aren't super loud. If you're not going out, you don't need to be projecting. You just want something that's going to feel cocooning and like a warm little blanket. Starting off with Fiore di Cotone. This is an interesting fragrance because to me, this smells like clean linens that are drying outside on the line, and you have the fresh breeze drifting by. It is musky, a little bit soft and sweet, but also has a little bit of an aromatic touch coming from some thyme and lavender. So this is going to have an aromatherapy sort of experience. Although it's a little fresh and green with the aromatics, it also has cardamom and sandalwood and vanilla, giving a silky smooth touch, a little bit of creaminess, and a little bit of sweetness. And this is a completely unisex fragrance, so if you like to smell fresh and clean, a little bit herbal, but also have that warming characteristic, this is the perfect place to be. Both cooling and warming, it is the perfect combination. Next, for those of you who are a fan of a musky vanilla, this is one of my favorite of all time, and this is Musk Mochus by Rania J. This one, in comparison, is a little bit sweeter than the last one, but definitely doesn't border on the gourmand territory. There is a creamy vanilla, but it is made very powdery with some iris. You also do get a little bit of fruitiness and a slight greenness coming from some black currant that adds just a little bit of tartness and sparkle in the beginning. And the sandalwood and musk in here are just so velvety smooth. So this is sweet and powdery vanilla with a little bit of a sparkling fruity top, and then dries down to a creamy musky sandalwood. This is perfect if you like a little touch of sweetness in with something that feels very clean, but not quite as aromatic as the last one. Next is Sonic Flower by Room 1015. Now say you want that powdery vibe, but you don't really want a vanilla in there. This is very reminiscent of the original formulation of Glossier You. I personally find that over time, Glossier You has become a little bit diluted, and the pink pepper seems to be very strong now. As I remember it, it was the most perfect skin scent, and this is like its older, sophisticated cousin. This does have pink pepper, but it is significantly more subdued than the reformulated version of Glossier You. This also has orris that's giving that beautiful, powdery yet waxy sort of consistency, reminiscent of a vintage lipstick. And this has carrot seed, which gives it a fresh, slightly garden-like touch. Imagine something that's lightly roasted smelling. You do get that earthiness, but you get that toasty quality. And because of the ambroxan in the base, I find this to be very long-lasting, but not hugely projecting. So if you need something that's more of an intimate scent, but you want it to last a long time, this one is a great option. Powdery skin scent without being too sweet or too laundry detergent-like. And to me, there is nothing that screams cozy like tonka bean. So we're going for Tonka Extraordinaire. This is a beautiful, warming, nutty fragrance. You have sesame that comes off very roasted along with a hazelnut, a tonka bean, but then you have some resinous qualities coming from some frankincense and myrrh that give this a rich, ambery sort of undertone. You do have an almond, which sometimes for me, almond can come off a little bit too powdery in a way that I find a little bit obnoxious, but it's tampered down really nicely with some labdanum. And labdanum has a suede-like quality. So this is ambery and warm, nutty and toasted, with a little bit of a suede-like element. And for our next category, we're talking about Galentine's Day. Just having a nice time with your girlfriends. These fragrances are specifically going to be fun and uplifting, lively fragrances. When I hang out with my girlfriends, I feel energized and alive, and I don't need to wear something that is super seductive, but rather something that's very playful. So that's what I'm hoping to emulate with these fragrances. Starting off with Karaoke Heart. Now this could definitely be viewed as more of a summertime fragrance, but I think that this brings the party because this is inspired by karaoke, which I love to do with my friends. It's got a juicy mango and a pineapple, but doesn't err too much on the side of artificial and super sweet and candy-like. The natural sweetness is balanced out with a little bit of warmth coming from some rum. So this is going to smell like a tropical drink on the beach on vacation. It can be a nice reprieve from the cold to wear something very fun and summery and festive. And despite this being fruity and juicy and fun, it is long-lasting, it is substantial, and it does not read juvenile or synthetic. This house is super duper long-lasting, and they all smell very, very sophisticated. Next is Mood Ring by Fleur. So a lot of people online have said that this smells like gummy bears or it smells like high chew candy. It does have that slightly artificial candy sweetness, like a fruity candy sweetness. But I do find that there is quite a bit of depth to this because although on the surface it's a fun candy, almost sour sweet sort of experience, as this dries down, this does have a musk and amber that give it a little bit of a character. Between the orange, the musk, and the jasmine, there is something slightly reminiscent of Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana, or Light Blue Forever perhaps, because that one's a little bit richer. This smells like when I was a young woman and I moved to Los Angeles and I wore light blue at the time, but I was always popping on suckers. I was just a loose cannon and I had so much fun. And that's that kind of energy that I want to cultivate while I'm hanging with my girls on Valentine's Day. Another fun and uplifting fragrance is a brand new one that I just got sent from Viktor and Rolf, and this is Tiger Lily. So once again, we have a mango fragrance, but instead of the mango being super juicy and super sweet, this one has a little bit of a greenness to it, so it doesn't feel very artificial or super sweet, but then in comes a coconut milk that is adding a little bit of creamy thickness. I don't want you to think too sheer, like sunscreen. And it has the most beautiful benzoin in the base that gives it the cross between a vanilla and a rich amber. Imagine Alien Goddess, but you amp up a little bit of that ambery quality and you add a mango. Another one that would traditionally be a summertime fragrance but will definitely help to liven up the party. And a brand new one to my collection, but I have been loving, is Sun-Kissed Dahlia by Skylar. So this is an apple fragrance, and in the beginning it kind of reminded me of Eden Juicy Apple from Kayali, or even Winter Candy Apple from Bath & Body Works. In the beginning, it had that slight shampoo-y sort of vibe. But this has two very creamy notes that come through after a few hours of wear. So it has custard and it has mamey. And if you've never had mamey, it is a super duper creamy fruit. It almost has a custard-like texture when you open it up, and it has this brilliant pink, almost salmon-colored flesh. This is also slightly reminiscent of Ellis Brooklyn Apple Love, but I found the dry down on Apple Love to have quite a bit of jasmine or white florals. I can't remember exactly what was in that one, but it was a lot more floral dominant. So almost the opening that you get on that is the dry down on this. This is fun and bright and clean, but then dries down to have something warming, a little bit sweet, a little bit edible, but not too much. So if you like apple fragrances, this one is so good. Next, we're going to move on to a category that I absolutely love and I think is totally overlooked in these videos, and that is first dates. Now, I've been married for nearly a decade, so I don't really know what it's like these days, but I know when I went on first dates, I wouldn't necessarily want to wear something super seductive because I was trying to get to know the person a little bit. So I wanted to smell beautiful, but I didn't want to smell super sexy, if that makes sense. And when I think of beautiful fragrances that are not going into that raunchy category, I think of fresh floral fragrances. It has a femininity, but it also has a little bit of a demure innocence to it. So let's start off with one that I think the name is just perfectly fitting, Love at First Sight. Now, if you guys have been on this channel long, you will have heard me talk about lilac very, very fondly because I grew up in the Midwest and it always makes me think of childhood. And if you didn't have the pleasure of growing up near blossoming lilac trees, they are the most beautiful florals ever. There's something very fresh and aquatic and uplifting about them while still having a little bit of a green earthy touch and a soft, delicate, sweet powderiness. And this is a photorealistic lilac fragrance. Sometimes fresh lilac, because they do have a little bit of greenness, can come off slightly bitter, and that is counterbalanced with a little bit of passion fruit. So the tangy sweetness of the passion fruit perfectly complements the fresh, green, aquatic, yet slightly powdery floral nuance of the lilac. And then in the base, there is an ambroxan, which really helps to fix this onto you. Lilac wouldn't typically be a super long-lasting floral because it's not quite as weighty and robust as, say, a jasmine or a tuberose that can feel quite thick and heavy. This, on the other hand, is very fresh, very light and uplifting, but lasts a long time because of the ambroxan. If you love the scent of lilac fragrances, I encourage you guys so deeply, get your hands on this. And just trust me, because as a lilac connoisseur, this one is incredible. Oh, it's so pretty. Next is a brand new one from a house that I absolutely love called Define Me, and this is called Florette. And what I love about Define Me fragrances is that they are affordable. They do not release a ton of fragrances, so they really take their time to develop fragrances, and they are not trying to be the fast fashion of perfumes. They really, really take their time to release quality fragrances at amazing prices and amazing quality that last. And for those of you who like crystals, this literally has rose quartz in the bottle. So in the beginning, you have a strawberry nectar, you have a lychee and a champagne. So this is going to feel very sweet and mouth-watering, but also a little bit tart, definitely not too on the syrupy side. Then you get a photorealistic bright pink rose with the stem and all. It smells crisp and green and super, super floral. There's a little touch of creaminess added from some tuberose, but overall to me, this is kind of a soapy rose. And I say that with pause because I know some people will think, oh yeah, that's gonna smell very vintage. This is soapy and rosy, but it still feels very fresh and very young and very uplifting. You just have to love a true rose water. And you guys know that I am a rose queen. I love rose fragrances so much. I love the scent of a fresh, natural smelling rose. So if you like something that's a little tart and juicy and sparkling in the beginning, but then dries down to a true rose, is a little bit soapy, I think you would love this one. And next we have Latin Lover. This is a very interesting floral fragrance to me because in the beginning, you are getting magnolia, you are getting violet, you're getting lily of the valley. So it does have that cooling, refreshing, almost slightly metallic floral. But then as it dries down, you have a benzoin and a musk and a patchouli. So this starts off fresh, springtime, cooling, very powdery violet, but then dries down to have this beautiful embrace of musk and warmth, a little bit of amberiness. So this really takes a turn and has a multifacetedness. So if you're not really into just a linear floral fragrance, this offers a little bit more of a story. This kind of, to me, follows the storyline of meeting someone and having this hopefulness and this brightness and falling in love and it getting deeper and darker and more passionate. I think the name Latin Lover really perfectly solidifies how this smells. Okay, and I'm gonna throw this next one in here as a little bit of a bonus. We're gonna call this one a second date fragrance because it is a little bit more sexy, like showing a little bit of shoulder. It's not quite as bright and fresh as the other ones, but it is not quite your va-va-voom. So it's that perfect where you wanna show a little peep of skin and you wanna be a little cheeky sexy. And this is called Baby Doll Blush. Now this fragrance has gone completely under the radar. I believe it is newer, but I have not heard anybody talk about it yet, and I don't know why, because this right here is a beautiful, like if you want to talk pretty girl fragrance, this is the definition of a pretty girl fragrance. It's a little bit sexy, but it's a little bit flirty and playful and perfect for every day, yet has that slightly come hither sort of feel. And the only notes that they have listed for this is magnolia, jasmine, and lily. I smell so much more than that. In the beginning, I get something fruity that is almost a little bit effervescent. Then I get a beautiful jasmine that doesn't feel too thin. It has a substantial quality to it, but then in the base, I do get this warmth, this muskiness, a little bit of sweet sexiness. I'm gonna try to contact the company and ask them what are the other notes in here, because this simply cannot be just a floral fragrance. It has so much more than that. It's a little bit fruity, it's a little bit sweet, it's a little bit ambery and musky. She's a flirt. She is an absolute flirt. This is a flirty fragrance. And our last category is the one that you guys have been waiting for. These are our hot and sexy, attention-grabbing date night fragrances. Now, first off, we're gonna start with one that feels unassuming, and then as you wear it, becomes the main character, and that is Queening by Mind Games. Now this is a vanilla fragrance, but I do not want you to think like a simple Baker's Vanilla run-of-the-mill super sweet fragrance. Oh no, no, no. They gave it the name Queening for a reason. This vanilla almost has a patina to it. So imagine a slightly dusty, slightly antique sort of vanilla, but I don't want you to think too vintage or too heavy and cloying and old lady. No, it just has this beautiful kind of powdery, dusty quality. I can't explain it any other way. That's how it smells. This has cotton flower and musk, so it's going to give it this fluffy airiness along with an orris that's going to give it that powdery, waxy quality. So this is the perfect hybrid between a sweet semi-gourmand, but then leaning into the clean girl aesthetic. You have a saffron that's giving this suede-like touch, along with a rum that gives it that warmth and depth and complexity. I underestimated this fragrance because I thought, okay, it's cute. But then as I wore it, as it dried down, this became so intoxicating on the skin. It is fresh and light and airy and uplifting while still being warming and sensual, but not in a way that is overly sweet. This is the most perfectly balanced vanilla fragrance, so if you like vanilla but they're typically too sweet for you, I would definitely try this out, but it is quite a pretty penny. So if you're going to try this, definitely get a sample first. Let it marinate on the skin, because straight off the test strip, I was like, okay. Then I really saw the magic a few hours later. Next is Ristretto Intense Cafe. Now, Intense Cafe has been popular for a very long time, but specifically, this is the Ristretto version, and this one has quite a bit more coffee. This is a very black coffee dominant acidic fragrance in the beginning. The rose in this is noticeable and adds a structure to the fragrance while not overpowering the other notes, because you also have a vanilla and you have a caramel. Imagine you went on a hot date, but you guys went to a coffee house and they got you a dozen roses, and they're sipping on black coffee, but you have a caramel frappuccino. All the culmination of those scents bottled and then made super strong. Now, some people feel like the House of Montal is a little bit synthetic smelling to them, and while I can agree, that offers the most incredible lasting power. Not only does it add a lasting power, but it adds the most massive projection. So I think the value of these fragrances are incredible, but because I love the fragrance, I'm happy that it lasts that long. So if you're gonna try it, get a sample, because once it's on you, it's not coming off. So if you don't like it, good luck. And next we have Amore Cafe. So when I first got this, I was a little bit confused because I hadn't looked at the notes, and I thought that this was a coffee fragrance, and it is, but it has amaretto, and that's what you get super strongly in the beginning. So you are getting a booziness and a syrupy sweetness. It almost reminded me of Shirosa 71, but like on steroids, on 10, like max capacity. And I have to be honest with you, at first I was like, no, this is too sweet for me. It is a little bit too syrupy, almost like maple syrup-esque, but this changed up when it dried down. The coffee almost translated into a little bit of a dark chocolate, and then that brown sugar started to come through. If you like Vanilla by Kayali, but that one didn't last or it doesn't project enough for you, this is its cousin on steroid. It has that booziness, it has that brown sugar, that really rich, sweet vanilla, but this has ice cream and it also has a little bit of coffee, but to me it comes off a little bit more like dark chocolate. This is super sweet, it's super gourmand, but don't judge it in the first 5 minutes, because at first I was like, this smells like maple syrup, I don't want it. The dry down on this is what I wanted from Whiff of a Waffle Cone from Imaginary Authors. Now that one stayed smelling like maple syrup the entire time, and I never liked it. This is what I imagined it would be. So if you want something that's super syrupy, dense, rich, decadent, ice cream, and gourmand, but has a little bit of a darker element to it, this one is super fun. And I personally think that I have saved the best for last, and I do not know how I have not tried this sooner, but this is from Pantheon Roma, and this is called Dolce Passione. This is the most exquisite chocolate fragrance I have ever tried. I didn't think it was possible to have a sophisticated chocolate perfume. I really didn't, because a lot of them smell like a Tootsie Roll, and that's fun, but it doesn't really read sophisticated. I said this on my Instagram, and sorry if my mom is watching, but this smells like strawberries dipped in Ghirardelli chocolate, and you're eating them after having a long night sesh. You feel me? Hot and dirty and sexy and sophisticated and just opulent. I saw that note of truffle and I thought to myself, what is that even going to smell like? But it adds that slightly earthy dirtiness that you need to make a sweet chocolate fragrance smell sophisticated. So if you have been looking for a chocolate fragrance, but they all feel a little bit juvenile, you need to try a sample of this one. This is so good that I think I am going to be wearing this when I go to Milan in March. And I am going to be going to Milan for the world's biggest perfume expo called Essence. So if you guys find yourself in Milan in March, I'm going to put all of the information in the caption below, and I will see you there. Thank you guys so much for joining me in today's video. I hope you found some fragrances that might interest you for Valentine's Day, no matter what you find yourself getting into. Whether you're chilling at home, you are with your girlfriends, or you're going on a hot and sexy date night, no matter what, we have to smell good. And I'll see you guys next Saturday, 10 a.m. PST. I will be here as always, and if you haven't subscribed already, I'm not even gonna ask you, I'm just gonna ask you. You made it all the way through this video without subscribing? I love you guys. I'll see you next Saturday. Take care of yourselves, my friends.